What's up, y'all? It's I, trying to save the GBVSR content drought. And what's a better way to save the game than to make a top 10 best and worst specials list? And right before I go actually listing stuff, I'm gonna go through a bit of rules I have set up. So a little note, I didn't 100% make this list. I had a bit of high-level players give their sense on which moves and whatnot, and how the list should be ordered. So you're not just gonna be listening to me and my biased sense for the next however long this video is going to be. And if it wasn't obvious by how I already said this, it's going to be in a top 10 format, but I will be taking turns going through top 10 and top worst. Number 2, the same character cannot appear more than once in the same list. This is to prevent someone like Lucilius just to take up the entire top 5 of the best specials as of now. And a little thing I just remembered, since Sandalphon isn't on the screen right now, this list will obviously be outdated in a few weeks. So if some of these moves get overly buffed or overly gutted, here's your chance to know why. Number 3, in both lists, I'll be talking about a character-specific special rather than talking about every single version of that special, due to some characters having really good heavy versions to where their medium version might be absolutely unusable garbage. So I decided not to discuss every single special for obvious reasons, messing with the accuracy in quotations of this list. And yes, this video will include lights to ultimate specials. Another thing that isn't in my script, we tried to avoid adding as many reversals as possible, but some of them were just completely unavoidable and just had to be added. Number 4, I don't think any of us would consider 5Us to be specials, unless they would have to be used in conjunction with another move. But if this video does well, maybe I will do a best and worst 5U video. Starting at the number 10 best special, Sora's 623H. Now you might be thinking already, this list might be terrible, but hear me out. You might think I'm crazy, but this move deserves to be here for a lot of reasons. Number 1, it is the fastest special in this game, coming out at frame 5, which is also tied for the fastest normal in this game. And since this game has a mechanic called the priority system, if two moves were to clash, depending on the attack level of that move, the one with the lower attack level will completely get ignored, despite if they both clash. So right there, as you saw, if a far heavy were to clash with that special, he will straight up win. But in a situation where you might be in a block string, obviously depending on the move, they could literally be plus, you throw this thing out, you straight up win. This is almost like an invincible reversal, but this move does not have any invincibility. And just being outside of just a wake-up option, it can be used in combos, of course. It's usually the move that causes the opponent to go airborne. It doesn't stop here at how good this move is. Sometimes you'll just be doing a block string, doing your thing. Like, what if the opponent just jumps? And just to add it, let's say you're out of range, you can't anti-air them. You know what you do? You get a whole combo off this, is what you do. Mind that. Which, by the way, his 623H is air unblockable. And I've genuinely gotten hit by this on my ascension. This move is insane. But like I said, we got 9 other moves to go through. Okay, so it turned out to be dark outside, so I had to get my lamp. Or else I would have just been invisible throughout this whole recording. At number 10, for the worst specials in this game, we have Avatar Belial 623H. And yes, I try to avoid as many reversals as possible, but this one right here just couldn't be avoided. Also, I made the list, so I had to sneak him in here. Totally. The main issue with this reversal is it's a lot easier to safe jab than compared to his 623M. And if it wasn't obvious the difference between both versions, one of them takes his own HP. And compared to the reward you get off the heavy version compared to the medium version, and also I'll be using the simple input because that's what people usually do input, you only get 600 more damage compared to the medium version, as to where you lose 800 of your own HP, which is a pretty fair trade-off, but the whole fact his heavy DP comes out 2 frames slower than his medium DP in a game full of safe jabs is quite bad, but it doesn't stop there. But there's one good thing about this special. The medium version is air unblockable, compared to the heavy version being air unblockable, so why is it even on this list? Well, a lot of characters in this game have air stalls, so usually you might anti-air somebody, and they'll just air stall you and get the advantage. So you might want to use DP in this situation. You see where I'm getting? You see where I'm getting? If you were to DP them with the medium version, yes, this damage is still abysmal, but in the end, the medium version gets a more consistent damage compared to the heavy version. And the whole point of the heavy version is to anti-air. And even right there, he was a lot closer that time, and it still did less damage than the medium version. So that is why we thought the heavy version of his DP deserved a spot at number 10. At number 9, for the best special, we have Onray J214H. Now, I'm no Onray player, but if the first impression of this move is looking at this absurd frame data off of a dive kick plus air stall, it totally deserved to be in this list. Now, something y'all should know about this character is that you should not anti-air him. The reason is because this dude has a total of 3 possible air stalls. So unless you're 2B or Siegfried with 2 H's that go off the screen basically, you don't really want to intentionally be anti-airing this guy. So how is this move good if you're not supposed to anti-air him? Is by throw baiting, but in the pro scene where you want to attack to take a throw instead of normally throwing, because you just saw he got murdered there, usually they'll press a close light, because that's kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and the only thing that you can lose to is a delayed dash attack or something. But even right there, he wasn't able to punish that, but being +3 off of an air stall like that, and also being in close range, is absolutely insane for a dive kick. So this move right here is one of the best dive kicks for the whole fact that it's extremely plus. It's used as a very safe throw bait, and I never even mentioned this at the start, you don't even have to make this a punish to get a whole combo off of it. He just gets it. On to the next one. At number 9 for the worst special is Siegfried 214U. To summarize this move as simply as possible, it's a simple unblockable. And you might think, man, this damage is insane, why is it even on this list? The problem comes where the frame data is. And the problem with the frame data is that this move comes out frame 35. So if you were to convert the frames to milliseconds in this game, to when this move comes out, it would come to a total of 583 milliseconds. The average human reaction speed is 200 milliseconds. Taking out the input delay, it might be 160 milliseconds. But this move right here is so sad, it expects you to have a 3 times worse reaction speed to react to this move. This character does have a setup that forces you to evade at the last possible frame, which does leave him plus, but I believe last patch, this would allow him to punish your evade, which they ultimately removed from the game because they thought that was stupid. And even this setup is really easy to catch. He does 3 close lights into 214, and I believe that's the only setup that allows him to set up for the unblockable. And it can be quite easy for him to mess up his unblockable setup because 214U is only active for 1 singular frame. And even when you set up this unblockable setup, is it not extremely reactable So that is why we thought Siegfried 214U deserved a place on the spot, for lack of practical use and mainly just used as a gimmick. Here at number 8 for the best special we have 2B22H. Now this move isn't just good for the fact that, oh, you have to activate it twice and then you get a higher damage combo. This move is used for many things. One, you could just throw this thing on your opponent whenever. The only downside is that you aren't able to use any other special without activating it. And even if you were to react to your opponent doing a special, you could also get a crazy conversion off of it. This move does luckily go away if you are hit, but here's the problem. You're not gonna get hit. Even if it's like a really fast teleport, a dive kick, or just a move that just goes really fast, you're gonna be reacting to every single one of those. But sometimes, depending on their speed, it can whiff, but you should be really hitting them on the startup of that. Shouldn't really let them get away with that. And with all the things I explained about this move already, you really think I wouldn't have saved the worst possible thing for last? Did anybody think this wasn't a terrible idea? Nobody thought that was terrible? You can activate this move, and it won't be interrupted no matter what. This is basically a clashable reversal. In simple terms, this could almost be looked at a reversal that gets a combo, but you clash. And the only real counter to this move is throwing, which if it wasn't obvious, just activate it right as they run up to you. And this is genuinely the only move in this game that rewards you for losing. Like, there's no other move in this game that's designed like this, and I don't even think it's intentional. But this has been in the game for about 5 months, about now, and they haven't taken it out now, so it does seem pretty intentional, despite how stupid this may be. Here at number 8 for the worst special, we have Near 623M. So the way this move used to work before is that it used to have super armor. So if you were to hit death while she's doing this attack, she would obviously absorb the attack and hit you back. But right now, as you saw right there, she just died. So the main use that this was for were for setups that which were for the better taken out. So the only real move for this use right now is for ending combos and then maybe getting like a really bad side switch. And block string, since this doesn't have any armor, the only use for this move, and this is stretching it, is for frame traps. And even at that point, is extremely stretching it. And on block, this move is -5. I really bet y'all would think twice about using this move from what I've described already. But if you were to use this in a block string, it is also punishable on block. It's -5, which depending on the character is unpunishable, especially at that range. But the whole fact this has a gap at the start and it's punishable at the end is a pretty good reason to why this made it onto the list. So the only use this move has of now is a really bad frame trap and a combo ender, which I also forgot to mention is a terrible idea because you also have this move, which does more damage than that in chip damage. So yes, the 236M right there does more damage and has you safe on block, does a lot less damage, and it's like a really bad mix-up. On to the next. Here at number 7 for the best move, we have Zeta 214L. Why am I not just using the heavy version? It's just better in every way apart from the cooldown. And that's the point. Usually people who play this game don't run up and do lows, which is to why this move is so good, because just usually this is how the interaction will go. This move does not cover lows, of course, so you will usually die for it, but like the mixture of this special being placed on back And the fact that you actually have to run up in 6XL is a pretty good unintentional thing that I don't think anybody talks about. Because if you were to expect them to just run up straight to you, it's extremely easy just to know when they're actually going to do a 6XL. And the whole reason this move is just good in general isn't the fact that it's just a parry that comes out really fast, specifically frame 3. It's the fact this move is not 1, not 2, but 3 different moves in one. So if you just throw out 214L randomly and you see them run up to you, light, and it's not even like this move is realistically punishable. And it doesn't even stop there at how crazy this move is in general. Did you know it has infinite hits of armor? So this move will completely negate fireballs, dive kicks as you just saw. So this move only doesn't cover lows, which right here also covers overheads. So for a parry with no cooldown that only loses to lows and throws, so for a parry it covers a lot more option selects than what an average parry should. So that is why we believed it belonged at number 7. Here at number 7 for the worst special we have 2B22M. Okay, so there's a lot of things about this move that's already self-explanatory. Like 1, it doesn't do any damage. Its length is pretty long, which is quite good. You can't really escape it through running, and the only way you can make it go away is by attacking. So just as a move, it's kind of hard to guess what this move's purpose is. This move only has 2 uses, the first of which is also mind the setup. An unblockable setup, and it's also used for a terrible corner switch. And also, bringing up that unblockable for a second, I know there's a real way to set this up, but this just isn't it. You could just completely ignore it by doing a delayed brave counter. So in the end, it's a knowledge check inside of a knowledge check, which using a brave counter isn't bad for doing that too. And there are ways to avoid getting hit by this unblockable, which is just evading. That is a genuine far medium punish off of majority of characters. So in the end, this move is only used as a gimmick that will only work like once in your life. Back when 2B first released, it was pretty broken, but that was in like February or March, where people still haven't even set their block button yet. So that's why we thought her 22M deserved the spot it's in. Here at number 6 for the best special, we have Beelzebub J214H. Just to explain this move a bit, it's a special that's a dive kick, so of course it's going to be plus on block. But what they did with this move recently is that, as you can see, it took the cooldown of his DP, which is kind of contradicting the way the input is placed, because 214H on the ground is set to back special, which is how it was originally. But the reason they did that is because they wanted to give him better combo routes, which is also extremely strange in a game design standpoint. But aside the fact that you're literally using your cooldown from your DP, the defensive special, for an offensive attack, is one of the reasons why it is on this list. And another crazy thing about the special is that this thing is extremely plus on block. Yes, it can be varying sometimes. I think the worst you could get it is to be -1, but you have to hit them like the perfect part on their head. So you're never unpunishable. Majority of the time, you will always be +2 at minimum, which I believe close medium would beat everything that isn't a reversal. But the fact you can super jump back, do the dive kick, and you're still able to hit them is absolutely insane. Like, even compared to the other dive kicks in this game, its hitbox is huge. And yes, granted, you do not get a combo on hit, nor counter hit, so that's one thing about the move. And as I discussed already with Onraid J214H, It could be used as an air stall, which gives you an absurd combo, which I do not know, sadly. And another thing related to this move is that he has a fuzzy. He is one of the 3 characters, I believe, that are in this game that has a fuzzy. I don't know that setup, so I'm going to be playing it on screen right now, at least one of them. But in this patch, I know it is extremely hard to hit, and when he does set it up, it uses 214H. And if he weren't to have J214H, he'd just have a JL fuzzy. And also another thing to bring up, when you're in an actual game, fighting people, you'd be like throwing fireballs and stuff, and then he just does this. And it is one of the most ignorant specials in this game. Like, it comes out extremely fast, it's plus on block. You can't realistically spot dodge this on reaction and get a punish. Anti-airing this move is kind of strange because this move is kind of an air stall, kind of dive kick, and the speed that it hits you with is extremely fast. So anti-airing this with 2H is quite unreliable. Even sometimes DPing this move isn't even a thing. I'm not very much a Beelzebub player, but I believe I covered everything that this move has to offer. You could throw this out like any time throughout the round and you'll get a bunch of reward whether they blocked it or not. It's a move you use in a fuzzy that is kind of quite hard to set up. Its range is absolutely insane. Obviously it could be used for a throw bait that you even get a combo off of in the corner specifically. And it's kind of like Henri J214H, but a lot better actually. So that is why we decided to put it at, what is it? Number 6. At number 6 for the worst special, we have Vayne 22H. Okay, so as a special, Vayne 22H is just a normal special. So as a special, specifically this version, it doesn't really change anything different between the light and medium version apart from the range. It does come out a bit faster than the other 2 versions, it seems, but the reason this version in specific is so bad is because it still absorbs only 1 attack, surprisingly. The second one obviously being, it has the same cooldown as a heavy special. It doesn't last that long, and legitimately the counter to this is, so a character that usually just stands behind a special the whole time, punishing whatever move that might get absorbed by the shield, is now like 6 other characters away from him, and it doesn't absorb any more attacks. They could just run through the shield, and even if the opponent still wanted to challenge the shield, they could just use a heavy fireball and it will still go right through it, obviously due to the shield having only 1 hit of armor. And also comparing the heavy version to the ultimate version, heavy version doesn't have a hitbox. And also something I doubt y'all will do, this thing goes off screen. No matter where you are, that thing goes straight off screen. Like, there's some characters like Vikala, where her quarter circle forward will not go off screen, as to where Vayne, his don't care. They're literally out of here. The only use for his heavy down special I see is like something like this. But like the issue arises is like, why are you attacking the shield, especially with the 6XL? So we decided to put his 22H on this list for the fact that it is extremely underwhelming compared to his light, medium, and ultimate versions, and basically has no unique use outside of those other versions. Here at number 5 for the best special, we have Belial 236U. Now this shouldn't come to a surprise as to why this is on this list. This fireball is extremely ignorant. It gets a combo from everywhere. It ignores majority of the fireballs, and even on block, you are plus 38 in their face. Yes, I would say nobody ever throws this move out in neutral. His fireball isn't usually thrown out in neutral like this. When it is thrown out, it's usually when the opponent is doing something like a neutral skip, or something that can be easily punished. Because obviously when ultimate skills are hit raw, you get 25% meter back, and the damage scaling is just insane. And this fireball isn't just for neutral skipping from full screen. It can also be used in this combo. Which, as you can see here, does a lot of damage. When we were making up this list, we discussed whether we should have 236H or 236U. And yes, this is an absolute abomination as it is. The situations where you can end up using this and just winning the whole game off of it is a lot more than is 236H. On to the next special. At number 5 for the worst special, we have Ladiva 236U. Now, there isn't much to actually say about this because it's a reversal, which is usually why I wanted to leave these out, but this one I couldn't help but actually add. Okay, so since this is a super armor reversal, you could do stuff like this. And comparing reversals to each other, a character like Gran would be a lot more plus in your face compared to Ladiva's 236U, which does cost meter. And you'd be about like right here as to when they could press a button, which isn't the ideal position you'd want yourself to be in. And since this character has an armored reversal, if you were to try to beat a safe jump, they can do an empty jump throw, which then you could attack to beat. But since we're talking about the 236U and this isn't a conditioning guide, this can be quite annoying because straight up out of nowhere you just lose 50 meter. And when the opponent is doing a block string, it can be quite obvious when the opponent will throw this out because the game will ultimately turn blue, slow down, and since this is unblockable, usually what will happen is that they will either spot dodge, or if they want a really good punish, they might backdash as well, but then they might end up getting hit. So that is why we decided to put this reversal on the list, because it doesn't leave you that plus on knockdown. It is quite obvious if the opponent were to throw this out, and typically parry reversals, especially ultimate ones, are pretty bad as it is. So that is why we decided to put it on this list. On to the next one. We're getting to some of the best moves in the game now. And at number 4 for the best special, we have, if it wasn't a surprise, Catalina 236U. So between Belial 236U and Catalina 236U, depending on the person, one might say either is better than the other. But since they are both relatively insane specials, comparing Belial's reward off 236U and Catalina for her 236U, it's a lot harder for her to combo compared to Belial getting a full run-up from full screen. Usually she'll be able to combo into a triple attack off of 236U from like here. But to where Belial and Catalina get separated is that her 236U keeps them on the ground, as to where his would cause instant airborne, and with her, you get full corner carry, wall bounce, and another move afterwards. Tell me nobody thinks that's insane. If her 236U never caused crumple / crouch, and her light wall was a lot worse, 236U wouldn't even be on this list. Sometimes even in pro sets, you'll see them do stuff like this, because they can't properly get a reward. So they'll end up doing 236U 3 times to actually get a proper conversion. And that whole time, they're still on the ground. Granted, I only believe they'd use that if it was going to kill. Outside of keeping your opponent on the ground for 50 years, I don't believe it has any proper corner combo use. Where some people might argue Belial's is better than Catalina's, is that he gets a lot better reward, a lot easier reward, and is overall more practical. But what people have said what makes hers better than Belial's is that hers is more of like, it's not really a fireball, it's more of just like, it goes full screen instantly, as to where his is pretty reactable, so his could only be used for whiff punishing, you could genuinely throw that out as they're running to you, and they might even get hit by it. So Belial's is quite reactable when he throws it out, but with hers, since it's so fast, coming out at frame 18, the opponent could be like running at you, and you could just throw that out, and that was quite exaggerated right there, but you could genuinely throw that out, and since it's at that range, you could genuinely get a close heavy triple attack and get an absurd reward, corner carry, and then some. That is why majority of us decided that Catalina 236U is a better special than Belial 236U. On to the next one. At number 4 for the worst special, we have Vicala. Okay, but actually it is Vicala 22M. Now you might argue that Vicala's 236U is a lot worse. I wonder why. It's not even an actual hit, it is a projectile, which if you didn't know, La Diva Headbutt of Love ignores fireballs, which therefore you know that is a fireball. It has quite bad range for a DP, usually losing to aerials, but in the end, we chose 22M for a lot of reasons. For the first example, with traps, they usually just work as, if you step on them, you get hit. They activate, you'll most likely get hit, or you'll be able to block on them right as they activate. And with a character like Cagliostro, they also work the same, as to where you can block right as you step on them. But the specific thing that Vicala has with both her 22M and 22L is you can 6XL them as they activate, which as a trap design is absolutely terrible, because with her traps, you can't do the same. You genuinely have to do a low, right there, that's a mid, to get rid of them. As to where, with Vicala, you can low them, but usually you could just 6XL right through them. So that's the first thing. The second issue is this setup they very much intended for us to have. And yes, this does work, but the way you actually get it to work is by making it a lot more risky. And stuff like that could happen, as to where you would do it kind of meaty. Vicala does have a lot of other moves that were up for discussion, like her 236H, and all the items that go along with it being usually garbage, like the smoke bomb, the heart, and the cheese, which is more used for trying to get the opponent to walk into it, but in the end we obviously chose 22M for the fact that majority of the time it is quite jank, and it's not really good in block strings, because even the light version isn't really used in block strings due to the fact that you could just run up 6XL. And with her down special, it's kind of a trap just to get the opponent to like walk back into it. But if the opponent starts understanding all the flaws about this character, this move could just be ignored in a lot of ways, along with her other moves. With the whole fact that a lot of her combos aren't really consistent with the mousetrap. The mousetrap could be ignored with 6XL, and if you understand the character, it's kind of just like a little thing on the screen at that point. And there are a lot of setups where you might throw, and then the trap will activate. I think the problem is that its hitbox isn't wide enough, and that the activation is too big. So I believe that's mainly the issue about that. And the last thing I thought I'd better bring up is that her trap does catch people in the air, but of course it's air blockable, and usually it's just really something to get used to, but actually punishing them on their way down could be quite difficult. But majority of the time people would rather not try to punish that and rather just do like 2-4 as a response to it. So in the end, with all its flaws, we chose Vicala 22M as number 4. On to the next one. At number 3, for the best special, we have Percival 236U. Out of all the ultimate specials that Percival got, everyone but arguably his DP is absolutely absurd. With his 214U doing 50% of your HP, and his 22U going into 214U were all up for discussion, but in the end, we chose 236U. There's something special about his 236U that no other ultimate skill has, which is that over time, while you're standing in the flame carpet, it does damage over time, and overall it does about a close heavy worth of damage, and you're +9 on block. And even when you take into consideration that something like, just like a raw ultimate skill on block would do about the same amount of damage that would accumulate over time, plus the damage on block, this still does slightly more damage. If you were somebody in this position that was constantly taking damage over time with one of the characters with the best buttons, it's quite a scary position to be in. And it would get even worse if you were to, let's say, jump. Yeah, you're going to 30%. So in the end, when you look at this move and understand everything about it, it's not that scary. But the fact that you could throw this move out about like 4 or 5 times in an actual round is wild. And you could also use this as like a combo tool if you were to like run up 236U as, let's say, like a throw bait. Even with that whole part of me saying that people don't really want to be in the corner with flame carpet, even if you do something like 6XL, you're still gonna get exploded by this dude. And even if he were to play aggressive after setting up flame carpet, he can still destroy you through all the mental stack that he just built up a second ago. So that is why we decided that Percival 236U deserved this place in the top 3. So starting out the top 3, we have Loane 623M. As y'all might know, Loane's parry isn't the best parry in this game. It can be evaded on activation, and if you were to evade it, the person evading, which is you, would be +2. Granted, it is not enough for a throw punish, that being frame 4, but if you were upset that you weren't able to get a reward off of somebody else's parry, you could reversal him back. But I'm talking about Loane 623M. So from the start, it shares the exact same property as his heavy version. The unique property about his 623M though is that it is active frame 1, but at that point just use the heavy version, because I don't know a single person that does a low meaty off of a throw. And in a game full of mids and overheads, his 623M doesn't have much use, and for even doing such a hard call out against the opponent, if they were to get hit by this, you wouldn't even get that much of a reward in the corner, compared to where if you would do the safer light version, you'd get a relatively similar combo, but I'm not doing it here. If you were to cover both options and do the heavy version, you wouldn't be able to get a combo off this. But the whole fact that you have to be looking at the corner and purposefully parry an opponent that's doing a low just to get a close heavy is really unrealistic when you think about it. And comparing the launch distance between the light and the medium version, the light version would put them up like kind of on that blue square right there, as to where the medium version would put them just like a few steps further back, which for a kind of hybrid zoner is like nothing. And even the frame data on both versions doesn't really change that much. 45 for the medium version and 40 for the light version. So in a game full of mids and overheads, this move deserved its place at number 3 for the many unrealistic possible cases that it may be used in. On to the next one, and at number 2, we have Grimnir 22H, along with his 5U. Obviously, this is the one exception I have to bring in 5U, because otherwise, this move just has zero use at all. This move almost got number 1, but still, even then, number 1 is still pretty up there. Grimnir's 22H ignores the rules of this game. This move here gives you near unreactable cross-ups that leave you safe on block, a throw bait which you get 3 straight triple attacks out of. They don't go away on hit, which, according to this game's patterns, would happen. But with this, nope. And do you know what they also don't do? If you didn't get it by now, they don't disappear ever. So the only way you actually would get them to disappear is actually using them or calling in different ones. And even when you see that this move is -2, do you know what you could do? That! It is quite easy to see when Grimnir is doing his down special and using a special to punish it, but even if you hit him, they're still up, they're not going away. So usually you'll get finished with your combo, he'll brave counter, and he'll be in the perfect position to use the wind crest. This character is genuinely a test to see if you know how to hold the block button. And I am 90% of the time a block button user. To the other people, this guy might be a nightmare for you. He must be a nightmare. Even with really unrealistic setups like this, I mean, they've definitely happened. I mean, I've definitely done them. The damage this guy gets in the end is absurd for a character that goes zipping around the screen like this. And all of that just because he spent 40 frames doing one move. And here at this like top 2, I don't even think you could argue what the top 2 specials are. This is like genuinely one of the best moves in this game. Even a new player could figure this out. But in the end, this is why we chose Grimnir 22H along with his 5U for the number 2 spot. I literally also missed out his fuzzy and his pretty kind of off-screen mix-up in the corner, which I'm gonna play on screen right now. But even then, this guy gets so much different stuff off of one move. Technically 2, but you get what I mean. And here we have at number 2 for the worst move, we got Anila 22H. I don't really have to go into detail about how useless this move is, because when you take into consideration that it is just a short hop that crosses over in a game where cross-ups mean nothing. I was even considering making Anila 22U the second worst move, but in the end, just like how reactable this move is, and like what certain characters get just by doing a 2H is absurd. Like as to where Charlotta, where she gets multiple different moves that cover different options, usually that all get beaten by DP, Anila just gets her normals she already had. You'll most likely just be holding the block button or obviously just gonna 2H her depending on your character and how good their 2H is. This move has 0 combo capability. You could say it could go over fireballs, but in the end, stuff like that could happen. Like even the lowest fireball in this game still catches her there. And even if you were to like jump over something, it doesn't really bring you that far. And her 22U does go a pretty far distance. It's not invincible like Seok's Empty Hand or Zoe 623H, I believe. And with this one, it costs meter. And typically with Zoe, she would still get a combo off of this. And even her 22U isn't even an overhead, which I really would have loved to add both of these to the list. Actually, you know what? Since I'm already at here, I'll add her 22U to the honorable mention. But in the end, we all chose her 22H for the obvious reason that it is very predictable. It doesn't really have anything apart from being just a short hop. It's also basically just a short hop with more startup frames as well. And before we get into the top 1 for the best moves, I'd like to show some honorable mentions. For one of the good specials, we have Vasaraga 46U. Second best honorable mention is Eustace 623U. Third best honorable mention is Seox J214H. And fourth best honorable mention is Avatar Belial 214U. For the first worst special honorable mention, we have UL214M. And the second honorable mention for the worst special is Zoe 623M. And with all those honorable mentions out of the way, we can go on to the top one. If it wasn't obvious already, give praise, for he has no equal. Lucilius 214H is the best special in this game. If you want to know why this move is so good, do I dare have to explain myself further? He got 10,000 damage mid-screen off of a frame 19 forward advancing special. And yes, this is at blade level 5, which you could consider cheating because majority of the players would be at blade level 5 when they're at like 50%, but like majority of pro games, you're gonna see this like every other game. You're going to see that exact same combo every other game at blade level 5. They were just about to get blade level 5. If you were at blade level 4 initially and you hit this move, you get the exact same combo. I dropped it there and I don't want to get blade level 4 again. That kind of took a second. In the end, you could have blade level 4, do quarter circle forward, and if you catch them lacking, they're going to lose 70%. This isn't even because I chose Avatar. They are going to lose 70% either way. And for a neutral skip that's like this level crazy, you would think that it would be pretty minus on block, like Versusia 214H. That's like -8, I believe, -9. -4. And then if you played this game, you might just be thinking, oh, that's throw punishable. This isn't throw punishable. That's the issue. No matter how fast you may run up to them, there is not a single move that can punish this. And yeah, compared to other characters that may teleport to your exact location with a neutral skip, this move does have weaknesses. And some characters' neutral skips, they might teleport to your exact location, like Avatar 214, for example. They might usually teleport to your exact location, as to where his 214H, he will dash straight forward, so he may be susceptible to fireballs. And even if you try to react to this, you'll usually get counter hit right as he grabs you, because just the startup of this move is absolutely insane for something that comes out frame 19. And it genuinely is the reasoning to why this move is the best move in the game, is genuinely because of blade level. He gets a 30% damage buff and a better combo off of rinsing his 4 specials like twice, which when you think about it makes zero sense at all that they're even giving him a damage buff to begin with, because in the end that would technically be something like a 40 or 50% damage buff if you're giving him better conversions and more damage. Because just off of these like 3 specials, I was able to take him to 50% with 0 ultimate skills from mid-screen, and not even bravery penalty. And it's not even like this move can't even be used in an actual combo too, because it can, and it's basically going to do the exact same damage as what I just did there, even with all that damage scaling. You could also throw his medium version into this. The only difference is that the medium version goes slightly less further than the heavy version, and the medium version does come out 2 frames later, but they're so similar together that it doesn't really make a difference. Like, they still do the same damage, and you still get the same combo off of it. If this game would read my inputs, jeez. So, that right there is what 99% of people believe is the best special in this game. On to the worst special in this game. At number 1, for the worst special in this game, we have Belial Medium Command Grab. It may come as a surprise to you that a top 4 character has the worst special in this game. To start, Belial Medium Command Grab comes out at frame 46, which means this move comes out at 766 milliseconds. The average human reaction speed is 166 milliseconds if you were to take out all the input delay. So if you multiply the average reaction speed up to when this move comes out, this game would expect you to have a near 6 times worse reaction speed than the average human. And yes, I have hit this in a real game before. There's near nothing you can do to properly set this move up. You could do something like that, but then again, you'd have to waste 50 meter and walk up to them, which, by the way, you can get thrown out of. Oh my goodness. And even if you were to land this, you don't get a combo off of it. If you were to use his heavy command grab, it is still quite reactable, but in a game where you could do stuff like this, his heavy command grab can be used in some situations, but if you were to use his medium command grab in this reset, you might have to quit the game at that point. And do you know what's crazy? I believe they even reduced the startup of his medium command grab. So before 1.50, his command grab used to be worse. The only thing this move has going for it is that it does damage. And even then, it still does the exact same amount of damage as his heavy version. Which even after you use his command grab, you're not going to be doing it again, because that kinda seems stupid. So 100% of the time you're gonna rather take the cooldown than be predictable and try to use his command grab again. So in the end, that is why this move in particular is the worst special in Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising. So since this concludes the video, if you'd like to give your opinion on this tier list, please feel free. If you hate the accuracy of this top 10 list, blame the other like 15 people that worked on this. Don't shoot the messenger, am I right? If y'all would like me to make like another list, whether that be discussing 5Us, like the best and worst 5Us, literal SBAs, SSBAs, now that I'm thinking about it, might be boring, but if this video is cool, or maybe in 1.70 when Sandalphon releases, I'd like to redo this one day. Despite how long I've been freaking recording this video better be less than 30 minutes, because I've been recording for like 6 hours nearly. And with all that said, don't like or subscribe.